Welcome to A Magical Life, Health, Wealth and Weight Loss. I'm your host, Magic BARCLAY, lead practitioner at Holistic Natural Health Australia and #1 best-selling author. In this podcast, I aim to give you practical tips on how to accelerate and sustain your health, increase your financial, spiritual and emotional wealth, and to look at something that haunts many of us needlessly, weight loss. In some episodes, I'll have guests available to give you even more tips, but in others, the floor is yours. Drop us a line at A Magical Life Podcast on Facebook and let me know what you would like to know more about. Now, sit back and enjoy, because it is time for you to create and truly discover a magical life. Welcome back to A Magical Life. I'm here today with Sharee Shefket. Welcome.
Hi, Magic. How are you today?
Great. Sharee, you're the founder of Wellness and Coaching Company. Sharee is passionate about mindset and she's been a counsellor for 16 years before moving into the disability sector. What was that move like, Sharee?
It was actually a gradual process for me. I had many clients in the mental health area. Then I started one by one getting more clients in the disability sector. And so it wasn't an intentional kind of move, but it was just a gradual progression. And so I went in that space, and then I love learning. So I went to a total different area after that, into hypnotherapy. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Sharee, what can you tell me about one of your other skills, Psych K?
Psych K is very interesting because it's quite elusive in some ways. You don't get a lot of information about it online. So it's like an energy psychology, and if you know Dr. Bruce Lipton, he talks about it quite a bit. He discovered Psych K, and he was able to remove his own limiting beliefs. And as soon as he removed his own limiting belief, he wrote his first book, which he was like trying to write for over 10 years actually. So it was quite a massive shift for him. So he will talk about Psych K a lot in terms of how it helped him, and that's how I sort of got involved in Psych K, because I was very curious about it. And so I did the training, and I use it a lot with my clients. It's amazing work.
That sounds fantastic, actually. So you started your own holistic wellness clinic to help people by empowering them to heal their mind, body and soul. What's been the biggest learning for you in doing that?
Great question. I think for me is a combination of all three. It's actually part of my logo, actually, mind, body, soul. And I think once you work on all three, you get amazing results. So it's about acknowledging all three. I think most people will work on their physical health and so ignore the other two. And I think you need to work on all three aspects.
Definitely. They all go in hand, don't they?
That's right.
Now, when you're not running your busy clinic, you're writing books, running retreats and doing workshops. What books do you have coming up?
I actually have a children's book coming up, and it's not your ordinary children's book. It's actually a self-development book for children. So it's a book where the parent or the teacher will read to that child on a regular basis and start to reinforce some new patterns in terms of how to respond to their emotions rather than react to their emotions.
That's fantastic. I recently wrote a blog about the 7 things your kids need to hear you say, because we do pattern beliefs and phrases and actions. We are role models. And I think
that's
the
right.
book
Yeah.
that you have coming up will be so great to reinforce the more empowering thought systems.
Yeah, I found there was a gap in the market for that, and it's some lovely, lovely kids books, and every children's book has some type of little lesson in it. But I wanted a book where they actually practice and the skill of visualization, deep breaths and learn how they would love to respond. So that way it becomes a new pathway for them. And so when they encounter the same emotional problem in their own life, they'll know exactly what to do because they've visualized it and practiced it for so many times while reading the book.
That's great. That is so cool. Now, let's talk health for a minute here, Sharee. When we're looking at health, we have physical, emotional, and spiritual. You're an expert in mindset. How do you see mindset affecting people's health?
If you examine your mindset, and I mean really, really examine it, from the time that you wake up until the time you go to sleep, and actually write every thought that you have down, you get a really good picture about where you are in your health. It's like a bit of a blueprint to your whole health system. So that's what I like to do. So mindset, if you get that straight and you get that right, so first examine all your thoughts and then rewiring them to get the right mindset for you.
Great. Now, we as coaches, we're both results coaches. We see people with emotional blocks. How do you help people uncover those?
Sometimes people are not even aware they have an emotional block. For example, I have a lot of clients who come to see me for chronic pain management, and then when I mention that, we need to just do a bit of an exercise where we're going to remove some of your emotional blocks, I kind of get this look on their face like, what's that got to do with my physical pain? I'm like, it has a lot to do with your physical pain. So some clients don't even know how profound an emotional block can be on their physical health. So for me, it's first awareness, and then working at where does this emotional block come from? You know, is it yours to begin with? And obviously changing that mindset and getting rid of that emotional block altogether, but then also having a bit of a different core belief system in place.
And self-sabotage thinking, how do you see that in respect to emotional health?
Again, I think it's a limiting belief problem. So self-sabotage, we all do it, don't we? We're our worst enemy sometimes, aren't we? It's amazing.
Totally.
You know, and it's like, well, why is it? And I had this whole self-sabotage moment a couple of days ago when I usually have like 2 little pieces of chocolate, and I was like, oh, I'm going to have another one. And I was like, well, you know, having this little argument in my mind. It's like, no, well, I don't need another one. Like, and I was like, no, you deserve it. And it's just amazing what I was just saying in my mind to try and sabotage myself and to eat more than I needed to eat more. So it's a very common problem, and it's about, for me, it was about rebellion. I was so rebellious. Who can tell me that I can't have more chocolate? You know, so it's that it's really interesting to examine why we're self-sabotaging to begin with. Is it rebellion? Is it something more deeper than that? And just really be aware of it.
And I think that's why a lot of diets don't work, because we're restricting things. We become rebellious against that. And it's like,
Yeah.
I can't have that bowl of pasta, but I'm going to because it's naughty. It's, it's never going to work. It's not sustainable, because we all have these shadow values hidden inside us, and rebelliousness is one of them.
Oh, shadow values. It's unbelievable. It's profound.
Totally is, says the control freak sitting in the room, quite happily putting my hand up. So shadow values are 7 values that underlie your behavior, your thoughts, your patterning, and we create it from childhood. So I'll do another blog about that and another podcast in the future. Let's look at your top 3 tips for better emotional health. Off air, you said the first one was facing your fears. Can you tell us about that?
Facing your fears is about turning on the light and exposing that boogeyman really. And you know, I have young children, and I always tell them that let's turn on the light and let's face those fears, and because it's not going to go away unless you face them. So it's about first facing that fear, and then examining to see, is this fear actually yours, or is it, and again, a belief system that you've inherited. I often have clients who will have a certain fear, and I said, well, how did this fear start? So where did it come from? And then they sort of look back and they go, oh, actually, it's not my fear. It was my mother's fear. And I've just adopted it somehow. So it's about facing those fears and really, unless you acknowledge it, you can't change it. There's nothing you can do about it. And that's the first step for me.
So true. And rewiring your brain, how do you go about that?
Rewiring your brain is a must do for every single person. The way I explain it, it's like you're grabbing documents from your computer, you're doing a bit of an edit, and then you're resaving. That's rewiring your brain. So we clean out our folder system, or we should do anyway, our old files, and delete and, you know, become very organized with our files and our administration work. Some people don't even acknowledge that we can actually do this in the first place, but we can.
It's kind of like the person with their laptop full of folders all over the desktop, and then the person that actually has folders under subfolders.
Yeah. And it's like, well, this is such an old file. It's obsolete. And I go, why didn't you get rid of it? You know, and I don't know. It just accumulates. You just accumulate crap over the years, and that's what happens in our mind. So it's about, okay, let's do something about this. Let's do a big cleanup here and get rid of it. It's not serving you anymore.
I so love a clean desktop, and it makes perfect sense. Why don't you do that to your brain too?
I often hear women say to me all the time, they go, oh, I can't get my mind to like shut down. I feel like I've got all these tabs open. And I'm like, well, let's do something about that. let's look at those tabs, see what you want to keep. Is it still relevant for you right now? If not, delete it. Then those tabs won't exist. It's like on your phone. Like happens on my phone sometimes. I'm like, oh, well, yeah, no wonder you can't shut your mind off. We're exactly the same.
And what would be your third tip for better emotional health?
I think it's to really, really love yourself, and be aware that you deserve that. You deserve, every single person is valid. Every person has a gift to share with everybody else, and you deserve to be loved. You deserve to love yourself. You deserve to be happy. I come across a lot of clients who will say, I will invest in a pair of expensive shoes or outfits or handbags, but they won't invest in their own emotional health.
Or they think that loving themselves is just going to get their nails done or having a massage.
Yes. And I say, well, why have you don't even think about self-care? It's like it's not something that exists in their life. And I say, well, why is that? And I often hear that, oh, just as long as I look good, then I'm okay. I go, but are you really okay? It's like they want some type of feedback from other people, when really they need that feedback from themselves, you know, and it's scary. It's scary. If you have never done your own real self-care, that's really, really scary at first. But it's okay. And I think that's where, you know, mental health practitioners, coaches, counselors, hypnotherapy, that's where we come into the picture. That's what we do, you know. Yeah, it's a shame that emotional health is like secondary to a lot of other things.
Exactly. We focus so much on mental health, but that's only one flip side of the coin. Coin has two faces, so you really have to look at the emotional center, the limbic system of the body. I often talk about systems of the body and treating the body as a whole. And unless you treat the limbic system, you will get sick. As I've said before, hold on to anger, your liver will start telling you it's not happy. You won't be detoxing properly. You may get the start of cirrhosis because you're angry about something, and that compounds over so many years. So unless you control the limbic system and really harness its power for good, it does show up in other places.
That is so true. I find that so often, especially with the chronic pain clients that I have. It's profound.
Just going back a minute to self-sabotage thinking and behaviour, would you liken that to when you buy a red car and all of a sudden you notice how many red cars are out on the street? Like, what you think of, you attract?
Yeah, because you want to be right. You want to be that, again, that rebellious streak. Well, I have this limiting belief and I want it to be right in some way. And it's like, really? Like, and so you're looking for evidence to support that limiting belief. And the minute you look at it and think, well, this limiting belief is not serving me. I need to get rid of it. I need to get rid of all that rebelliousness associated with that limiting belief as well, that you're not always right.
Exactly.
It's not 100% true.
You're not finding proof and creating evidence. Now, let's touch on a very touchy subject, but it is part of this podcast, and that is weight loss. What is your main tips around weight loss?
I find weight loss an interesting area because it's not as simplistic as people assume it is. It's not just, okay, just go on a diet, eat less and exercise. It's not as simple as that. And I think we're led to believe that it's just a simple process, and everyone knows that. Everybody knows that, if you eat less and you exercise, everyone knows that. We don't need to be told that. We know that. It's bigger than that. So when people come to me for weight management, I have to look at and see, is it an emotional block that they're self-soothing for? And so the overeating is just a cover up for something more deeper than that. Is it just a habit that they've developed over the years? Like, if I've completed a task, I will reward myself with some chocolate, cake, etc., whatever their favorite food is. And I find the same with my clients who want to quit smoking. It's like a reward system, and we need to change that, obviously. Or I have also clients who have secondary gain, and what I mean by secondary gain is this goes a lot more deeper. Like I had a client many years ago who, it wasn't the other two problems. It wasn't that at all. It was the fact that she was scared to lose weight. She knew she could do it. She'd done it before, but she didn't want to lose her weight because she had been sexually assaulted when she was younger, and it was a bit of a protection thing for her. And when she acknowledged that, the weight just fell off because she wasn't afraid of facing that fear and realizing that it's time to let it go.
So she was creating like a fat armor to protect herself.
Exactly.
And so how do you help people with that? Is it through asking questions? And if so, what type of questions?
Yes, there's a lot of empowering questions about where did the beliefs come from, how did it all start, what have they tried before, and you just see a pattern. And once you examine that pattern, then you know where you're sort of heading and what the issues might be. Sometimes I don't get it right. Sometimes you think, okay, this is just a standard change of habit problem. And then I find later on, like I said, there's a deeper problem like the secondary gain. So it's a bit of a trial and error until you kind of get it right with certain clients.
Wow, that's pretty structural work. Like you're really rejigging a lot of patterns and belief systems and a whole lot there. That's fantastic.
Yeah, so what I've also find is that some clients are not sure about what their problem really is. For instance, I had a client once that came to see me because they wanted to clean up their spare room. Now, I knew that wasn't their real problem, but they were adamant, that's why I'm coming to see you. I need some motivation to clean my spare room. It took a while for that person to acknowledge that it wasn't about the spare room.
So how did you find out what it was about?
It's really digging deep and like, I guess, like peeling the onion, so to speak, all the onion skin until you get there, and then they have their aha moment and think, oh, this is what this is really about.
Wow. That's great. I love that. So, Sharee, what's one more thing we can give people here so that they can start to create their magical life?
Love yourself and put yourself first. You deserve it. It's your time. I always hear clients say to me, "Oh, one day it'll be my turn." One day I'll put myself first. But now it's like the husband or the kids or whatever else they have to do, and then that time doesn't happen. It's time to do it now. It's time to make your health, physical and emotional and spiritual health, and I mean all three, your priority.
And by doing that, you will uncover things that you never thought were possible. Definitely through coaching, Sharee and I have both studied under a couple of the same people. And through coaching, we learned that point A is only point A on the map. You've still got all the way to point Z. And you just have to look up at the horizon and see the big picture.
That's right.
That is so good to talk to you today, Sharee. It's been very empowering listening to your passion for health and for mindset and uncovering those emotional blocks. So, Sharee, we can find you at www.wellnesscoachco.com.au and also on Facebook at Wellness Coaching Co. Do you have some other groups or things that you can offer people here?
Yes, so I have a women's support group on Facebook called I Don't Know How She Does It, supporting women who do too much. So it's basically a group for women just to be able to get some advice and vent and in a safe place. There's also the chronic pain management, again, for the same type of support. And the other group is finding your life's purpose. And that's a biggie for most people, about finding what are they here for? Is there a higher purpose here? So lots of information, resources available on that Facebook group.
And where can they send you a message if they forget what these groups are? How can they get in touch with you the best?
Yeah, so info@wellnesscoachingco.com.au.
So that was info@wellnesscoachingco.com.au. Send Sharee a message, and if you've forgotten what those fabulous groups are, she'll pop you in touch with those with the correct links. Sharee, thank you again for your time today. Thanks for coming on, and I would certainly love if you would come back on.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So that was Sharee Shefket from the Wellness Coaching Co. Coming up in episode 6, you have dear old me talking about rheumatoid arthritis and inflammation. So we'll be looking at all things inflammation, how to beat it, how to fight it, how to get on top of it, and really what inflammation is. So I look forward to seeing you in episode 6 of A Magical Life. Thanks for listening today. Please subscribe to hear future episodes, leave a review, and share this podcast. You can follow us on Facebook at A Magical Life Podcast or at Holistic Natural Health Australia. That's holistic with a W. You can find us on Instagram at Holistic Natural Health or at www.holisticnaturalhealth.com.au. That's where you'll access all sorts of articles, freebies, and more.